Your destiny changes the moment you open your mouth. Every word you speak either builds bridges or burns them, creates opportunities or destroys them, opens doors or slams them shut forever. This isn't motivation. This is the raw, unfiltered truth about human psychology that most people will never understand. The difference between those who command rooms and those who fade into shadows isn't talent, education, or luck. It's the conscious mastery of one fundamental skill that Napoleon Hill called the golden key to all human relationships. In the next few minutes, you're going to discover why some people can walk into any situation and instantly command respect, while others remain invisible despite having brilliant ideas. You'll understand the psychological triggers that make people either lean in when you speak or unconsciously tune you out. Most importantly, you'll learn how to rewire your communication patterns so completely that your voice becomes a magnet for success, influence, and genuine connection. The human brain makes a judgment about your intelligence, competence, and trustworthiness within the first 300 milliseconds of hearing your voice. That's faster than a heartbeat, faster than a blink. In that microscopic moment, before you've even finished your first sentence, the person across from you has already decided whether you're worth their attention. This isn't conscious bias, it's hardwired survival programming that's been shaping human interactions for thousands of years. The fascinating part is that this process has nothing to do with what you're saying and everything to do with how you're saying it. Studies conducted at Harvard and Princeton universities revealed something that should revolutionize how we think about communication. When researchers analyzed thousands of interactions, they discovered that people who spoke with intentional rhythm, controlled pace, and strategic pauses were consistently rated as more intelligent and more trustworthy than those with identical qualifications who spoke without these vocal patterns. The difference wasn't in their credentials, experience, or even their ideas. The difference was in their understanding of how the human nervous system responds to vocal tonality and linguistic structure. This discovery connects directly to what Napoleon Hill observed in his 25-year study of the most successful individuals of his era. Hill noticed that every single person who achieved extraordinary success had mastered what he called the art of controlled conversation. These individuals understood that communication isn't about transmitting information, it's about creating emotional states in others. They knew that people don't make decisions based on logic alone. They make decisions based on how they feel when they're around you. Your voice is the primary tool for creating those feelings. The tragedy is that most people go through their entire lives speaking randomly, without intention, without understanding the profound impact their vocal patterns have on every relationship, every opportunity, every conversation that matters. They wonder why their ideas don't get heard in meetings, why their relationships lack depth, why their careers plateau despite their hard work. The answer isn't that they lack substance, it's that they've never learned to package their substance in a way that resonates with the deepest layers of human psychology. Consider this biblical truth from Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. This isn't poetry, it's practical psychology. Your words literally have the power to breathe life into relationships, projects, and dreams, or to kill them before they have a chance to flourish. When you understand how to align your vocal delivery with the way the human brain processes trust, authority, and connection, you don't just communicate. You transform every interaction into an opportunity for mutual elevation. The people who seem to effortlessly influence others, who naturally draw people into their vision, who can calm conflicts and inspire action, they're not using magic. They're using precise psychological principles that anyone can learn. They understand that communication operates on multiple levels simultaneously. While your words carry the surface message, your tone conveys your emotional state, your pace demonstrates your confidence level, And your pauses create space for the listener's mind to process and absorb what you're sharing. What you're about to learn goes far beyond traditional public speaking techniques. This isn't about becoming a polished performer or learning to manipulate others. This is about developing such genuine mastery over your own expression that your authentic self becomes irresistibly compelling. When you align your inner clarity with outer vocal precision, something profound happens. People don't just hear your words, they feel your presence. They don't just understand your message, they're moved by your conviction. Napoleon Hill observed that every great leader he studied possessed what he called magnetic personality, the ability to draw others into their vision through the sheer power of their presence. He discovered that this magnetism wasn't a mysterious gift reserved for the chosen few. It was a learnable skill set based on understanding how human emotions respond to vocal patterns, how trust is built through consistency of tone, and how influence flows naturally when your communication creates safety and clarity for others. The foundation of magnetic communication rests on a truth that most people completely misunderstand. Simplicity is the highest form of sophistication. When Albert Einstein said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough," he was revealing a secret that every master communicator knows. The goal isn't to sound impressive, it's to create understanding. The goal isn't to showcase your vocabulary, it's to build a bridge between your mind and theirs. Your brain is wired to detect clarity and respond to it with trust. When someone speaks in unnecessarily complex language, using jargon when simple words would suffice, your nervous system interprets this as a threat signal. Subconsciously, you begin to question whether they're trying to confuse you, whether they truly understand what they're talking about, or whether they're attempting to hide something behind a wall of elaborate words. This response happens automatically, below the level of conscious awareness, and it immediately creates distance between speaker and listener. Master communicators understand that every word is either building trust or eroding it. They choose each word with the precision of a surgeon selecting the right instrument. They don't say utilize when they mean use. They don't say implement a comprehensive strategy when they mean make a plan. They don't hide behind corporate speak or academic terminology because they understand that connection happens in the space of shared understanding, not in the display of intellectual superiority. This principle connects to Napoleon Hill's observation that successful people always speak to include, never to exclude. They bring people into their world rather than creating barriers that keep people out. Hill noticed that the most influential individuals of his time had developed what he called the common touch, the ability to communicate profound insights using language that anyone could understand and apply. They understood that true leadership isn't about proving how much you know, it's about helping others discover what they're capable of achieving. The neurological reality is that your brain can only process a limited amount of complex information before it becomes overwhelmed and shuts down. When someone speaks in long, convoluted sentences filled with unnecessary modifiers and technical terms, your brain has to work so hard to decode the meaning that it has no energy left to engage emotionally with the message. This is why people zone out during boring presentations, why they stop paying attention during rambling explanations, and why they feel exhausted after conversations with people who can't get to the point. Conversely, when someone speaks with crystalline clarity, using short sentences with powerful words, your brain relaxes into a state of receptive attention. The cognitive load is minimal, which means your emotional centers are free to engage fully with the message. This is the state where real influence happens, when the listener isn't struggling to understand what you're saying, so they can focus entirely on how it makes them feel and what it means for their life. The structure of your communication is just as important as the words you choose. Human beings are pattern-seeking creatures. We need to know where a conversation is going in order to relax and trust the process. When someone jumps randomly from topic to topic, when they start stories without finishing them, when they bury their main point somewhere in the middle of a rambling explanation, they create anxiety in the listener's nervous system. The brain starts working overtime, trying to find the organizing principle, the thread that connects the pieces together. Effective communicators solve this problem by using what I call the roadmap principle. They tell you where they're going before they take you there. They use transition phrases like, "Here's what I want you to understand. The key point is this. And what this means for you is..." These simple verbal signposts help the listener's brain organize the incoming information and follow the logical flow of ideas. This isn't just good communication technique, it's practical psychology based on how human attention actually works. Napoleon Hill emphasized that all great communication follows the biblical principle found in 1 Corinthians 14:8. For if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself to the battle? Your words must carry clarity of purpose. Every sentence should move your listener closer to understanding, closer to feeling, closer to acting on what you're sharing. If your communication lacks this forward momentum, if your words create confusion rather than clarity, you're not just failing to influence, you're actively pushing people away. Before we go deeper into the advanced techniques, I want to pause and share something personal with you. If you're finding value in this message, if these insights are opening your eyes to new possibilities for your own communication, I'd be honored if you'd join our community by subscribing to this channel. But here's what I want you to know. This isn't just about growing numbers. Every person who subscribes becomes part of a movement of individuals committed to elevating not just their own communication, but the quality of human connection in the world. When you hit that subscribe button, you're telling me that you believe in the power of authentic influence, that you want to learn how to use your voice as a force for positive change in your relationships, your career, and your community. You're also ensuring that YouTube's algorithm shares these life-changing insights with others who need them. Your subscription literally helps spread wisdom that can transform lives. And honestly, knowing that you're on this journey with me makes creating this content feel less like work and more like a calling. I also want to invite you to share your own experiences in the comments below. Have you noticed how certain people's voices immediately command your attention while others seem to fade into the background? What patterns have you observed in your own communication? Sometimes, the most powerful learning happens when we share our discoveries with others who are walking the same path. Your insights might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. The moment you decide to take conscious control over your communication, you begin a transformation that reaches far beyond just speaking well. You start rewiring the very foundations of how you show up in the world. This process requires something that our modern culture rarely demands: the courage to slow down, pay attention, and build something meaningful rather than just reacting to whatever happens to you. Most people speak on autopilot, letting their words tumble out without intention, without awareness of their impact, without connection to their deeper values and purposes. Real transformation begins with understanding that your voice is not separate from who you are. It's the external expression of your internal state. When you're confused, your words lack clarity. When you're insecure, your voice seeks permission. When you're angry, your tone pushes people away. But when you're centered, when you're clear about your values and confident in your truth, your voice naturally carries weight and warmth that draws people closer. This is why Napoleon Hill insisted that all external success must be built on a foundation of internal development. The practice of conscious breathing is where this internal development begins. Your breath is the bridge between your nervous system and your voice. When you're anxious, your breathing becomes shallow, which makes your voice tight and strained. When you're rushed, your breathing becomes irregular, which makes your words come out choppy and disconnected. But when you learn to breathe deeply and deliberately, something remarkable happens. Your entire nervous system shifts into a state of calm alertness that automatically improves every aspect of your communication. Before any important conversation, successful communicators take 60 seconds to center themselves through conscious breathing. They breathe in slowly through their nose for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, and exhale through their mouth for 6 counts. This simple practice activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which governs your rest and digest response. In this state, your voice naturally deepens, your words become more measured, and your presence becomes more magnetic. You're no longer speaking from a place of stress or reactivity. You're speaking from a place of choice and intention. The physical foundation of powerful communication extends beyond breathing to include your posture and positioning. Your body language doesn't just influence how others perceive you. It directly affects how your voice sounds and how confident you feel. When you stand or sit with your spine aligned, your shoulders relaxed, and your head balanced over your center of gravity, you create optimal conditions for vocal resonance and emotional stability. Your voice has more space to develop richness and depth, and your nervous system receives signals that you're safe, grounded, and ready to engage authentically with others. Eye contact represents one of the most powerful tools for creating connection, yet most people use it unconsciously and ineffectively. The key isn't to stare intensely at someone, which creates discomfort and pressure. The key is to maintain soft, steady contact that communicates presence and genuine interest in the other person. When you look at someone while you're speaking, you're not just sharing words, you're sharing energy. You're communicating that they matter, that this conversation has meaning, that you're fully present in this moment with them. Master communicators understand that silence is not the absence of communication. It's one of the most powerful forms of communication available. Strategic pauses give your words time to land and resonate in the listener's mind. They create space for emotion to build. They demonstrate confidence because only secure people are comfortable with silence. Most people fear these moments and rush to fill them with unnecessary words, but skilled communicators use them deliberately to enhance their message and deepen their connection with others. The principle of emotional congruence is fundamental to developing authentic influence. This means that your words, your tone, your body language, and your emotional state are all aligned and pointing in the same direction. When these elements are consistent, people trust you instinctively because their intuition tells them you're being genuine. When these elements are misaligned, when you're saying one thing but your body language suggests something else, people feel confused and wary, even if they can't articulate why. Napoleon Hill discovered that every person he studied who achieved lasting influence had developed what he called definiteness of purpose. They knew exactly what they wanted to accomplish through their communication, and this clarity gave their words precision and power. They weren't just talking to hear themselves speak, or to kill time, or to impress others. They were speaking with specific intention to create specific outcomes, to inspire, to clarify, to heal, to motivate, to connect. This definiteness of purpose shows up in the way they structure their thoughts before speaking. Instead of beginning to talk and hoping to figure out their point along the way, they take a moment to clarify their intention. They ask themselves, what do I want this person to understand? How do I want them to feel? What action do I hope they'll take? This internal preparation, even if it only takes a few seconds, transforms random conversation into purposeful communication. The biblical wisdom from Ecclesiastes 3:7 reminds us that there is a time to keep silence and a time to speak. And master communicators have developed the wisdom to discern these moments. They understand that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is create space for someone else to share what's on their heart. They know that asking the right question at the right time can be more influential than any brilliant statement. They've learned that leadership often means listening so deeply that others feel truly heard and understood. True mastery in communication emerges when you transcend the mechanics of technique and enter the realm of artistry. At this level, you're no longer thinking about what to say or how to say it. You're responding from a deep well of internal clarity and genuine care for the person in front of you. This mastery cannot be faked or forced. It develops naturally as you integrate the principles we've discussed into the fabric of who you are, not just what you do. The highest level of communication skill is the ability to meet people exactly where they are and speak to their deepest needs without them having to explain what those needs are. This requires what Napoleon Hill called accurate thinking combined with profound empathy. You learn to read the subtle signals that people send through their posture, their breathing, their word choices, their energy level. You become sensitive to what they're not saying as much as what they are saying. When someone is speaking to you from a place of fear, you don't respond with logic and facts. You respond with patience and reassurance. When someone is speaking from anger, you don't defend or counterattack. You acknowledge their pain and help them find a path toward resolution. When someone is speaking from confusion, you don't overwhelm them with more information. You help them clarify their priorities and take the next small step forward. This level of responsiveness requires you to be fully present rather than planning your next point while they're still talking. The practice of deep listening transforms both the listener and the speaker. When you listen with your complete attention, without agenda, without judgment, without the need to fix or solve or convince, something miraculous happens. The person speaking begins to feel truly seen and heard, often for the first time in a long time. In that space of being witnessed, they often discover insights and solutions that were always within them, but couldn't emerge in the noise of normal conversation. Master communicators understand that their job isn't to have all the answers, it's to ask questions that help others find their own answers. The right question, asked at the right time with genuine curiosity, can unlock years of confusion and open pathways to new possibilities. These aren't manipulative questions designed to lead someone toward a predetermined conclusion. These are authentic inquiries, born from real interest in understanding what matters most to the person you're speaking with. The integration of storytelling into everyday conversation represents one of the most powerful tools for influence and connection. Stories bypass the analytical mind and speak directly to the emotional centers of the brain. When you share a relevant personal experience, not to impress or to redirect attention to yourself, but to illustrate a point or provide encouragement, you create a bridge of understanding that facts and figures can never build. Effective stories for everyday communication are brief, specific, and focused on universal human experiences like overcoming fear, learning from failure, discovering unexpected strength, or finding hope in difficult circumstances. These stories work because they help the listener see themselves in your experience. They provide tangible examples of how abstract principles play out in real life. They offer hope that if you could navigate a similar challenge, perhaps they can too. The advanced practitioner learns to read group dynamics and adjust their communication style accordingly. In some situations, the group needs energizing, so your voice becomes more animated and your pace quickens. In other situations, the group needs calming, so your voice becomes deeper and your pace slows. Sometimes the group needs direction, so your words become more decisive and clear. Sometimes the group needs space to process, so you speak less and listen more. Napoleon Hill observed that true leaders possess what he called the faculty of inspiring others to cooperate. This inspiration doesn't come from charisma or manipulation. It comes from your ability to help others see how their individual contributions serve something larger than themselves. When you speak about shared vision, collective purpose, and mutual benefit rather than personal gain, people naturally want to join you because they feel included in something meaningful. The concept of servant leadership applies directly to communication mastery. When your words serve the highest good of everyone involved in the conversation, when you speak to elevate rather than to dominate, when your communication creates more possibility rather than more limitation, you develop what could be called conversational authority. People trust you not because you demand their trust, but because you consistently demonstrate that their well-being matters to you. As we near the end of our time together, I want to extend another invitation, but this one comes from my heart to yours. If these insights are resonating with you, if you can see how developing these communication skills would transform not just your own life, but your ability to serve others, I would be deeply grateful if you'd subscribe to this channel and share this message with someone who needs to hear it. You see, every subscriber represents someone who has decided to invest in their own growth, someone who believes that better communication creates better relationships, better opportunities, and a better world. When you subscribe, you're not just accessing more content. You're joining a community of people committed to using their voices as instruments of positive influence. I'd also love to hear your story. In the comments below, share one specific change you're going to make in how you communicate based on what you've learned today. Maybe it's taking 3 conscious breaths before important conversations. Maybe it's eliminating filler words from your speech. Maybe it's asking better questions and listening more deeply. Whatever it is, sharing your commitment publicly increases your likelihood of following through, and your example might inspire someone else to make their own positive changes. What you've discovered today isn't just information, it's an invitation to step into a different version of yourself. A version who understands that every conversation is an opportunity to plant seeds of encouragement, wisdom, and hope in another person's life. A version who recognizes that your voice carries the power to heal wounds, bridge divides, inspire action, and create the kind of connection that our world desperately needs. The journey from unconscious speaking to masterful communication is not a destination you arrive at, but a practice you refine for the rest of your life. Every conversation becomes a laboratory for growth. Every interaction offers new insights into the human heart. Every relationship deepens your understanding of how words can either build bridges or create walls between souls seeking to understand and be understood. Napoleon Hill spent his entire career studying what separated ordinary people from those who achieved extraordinary influence and impact. His conclusion was clear: the difference wasn't intelligence, education, or natural talent. The difference was their commitment to continuous improvement in their ability to connect with and inspire others. They understood that their communication skills would either limit their impact or multiply it, and they chose to invest whatever time and energy was necessary to become master communicators. The biblical principle from Matthew 12:37 reminds us that, "By thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned." This isn't a threat, it's in recognition of the profound responsibility that comes with the gift of speech. Your words have the power to lift people up or tear them down, to spread light or create darkness, to build hope or destroy dreams. When you truly understand this responsibility, you begin to speak with the reverence and intentionality that this power deserves. The ripple effect of masterful communication extends far beyond your immediate conversations. When you speak with clarity, compassion, and conviction, you give others permission to do the same. When you create safety for authentic expression, you help others find their own voice. When you demonstrate the power of speaking truth with love, you inspire others to courageously share what matters most to them. Your commitment to communication mastery becomes a gift not just to yourself, but to everyone whose life you touch. In a world filled with noise, division, and superficial interaction, your choice to communicate with depth and authenticity becomes a form of ministry. You become someone who offers what people are desperately hungry for, but rarely experience: the feeling of being truly seen, heard, and understood. This is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing up as your most conscious, caring, and clear-thinking self in every conversation that matters. The practice begins now with the very next person you speak with. Notice your breathing before you begin talking. Pay attention to your posture and your pace. Listen not just to their words, but to their heart. Ask questions that invite deeper sharing. Speak from your authentic experience rather than from what you think you should say. Create space for silence and reflection. Choose words that build rather than words that tear down. As you embark on this transformational journey, remember that you're not trying to become someone else. You're learning to become the fullest expression of who you already are. Your unique voice, when developed with intention and spoken with love, has something to offer that no one else can provide. The world needs your particular combination of experience, wisdom, and perspective, but only if you develop the skills to share it effectively. The master communicators who came before us understood something profound. That communication is ultimately about serving others, not serving ourselves. When your words help someone feel less alone, when your voice brings clarity to confusion, when your questions help someone discover their own answers, when your stories provide hope in dark times, you're fulfilling one of the highest purposes available to human beings. Your voice is not just sound waves moving through air, it's the expression of your soul reaching toward other souls. When you speak with mastery, you create moments of genuine connection in a disconnected world. You offer the gift of understanding in a time of widespread confusion. You become a bridge between hearts that long to know they're not alone in their struggles, their dreams, their hopes for something better. The choice is before you now. You can continue speaking unconsciously, letting your words scatter randomly without purpose or power. Or you can accept the challenge and the privilege of developing your communication into an art form that serves not just your own growth, but the elevation of everyone you encounter. The techniques are available. The principles are proven. The only question remaining is whether you'll commit to the daily practice that transforms knowledge into wisdom and potential into reality. This is your moment. This is your calling. Your voice matters. Your words have power. Your commitment to conscious communication can become a force for positive change in a world that needs exactly what you have to offer. The question isn't whether you have something valuable to say. You do. The question is whether you'll develop the skills to say it in a way that opens hearts, changes minds, and inspires action. The journey begins with your next conversation. Make it count.